Hi there. So I'm David Charlton, a sports psychologist, and today I'm joined by my colleague Alex Harper, and we're going to talk about conflict in team sports today. Particularly, we're looking at motorsport, where you've got a small team, you've got generally two or three riders, you might have mechanics, you may well have sometimes a parent involved in the dynamic, or parents, and a few other team members too. And often, what can happen in these small teams is various different people have different goals. So the mechanic may well have a goal for the athlete, for the rider, the performance director or the performance manager does, the parent does, and then the athlete does. But sometimes the goals aren't really communicated very well, and it leaves the athlete confused. It adds sometimes some of the goals, the way they are communicated means that the athlete, the rider in this case, can feel an awful lot of pressure too. So yeah, with my colleague Alex here, we're going to dive into this topic on how we as sports psychologists can actually help the athlete or the rider in this case. So yeah, over to you, Alex. Do you want to share how you've worked with people in this sort of situation?
Sure, yeah. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on the video. So I think, yeah, this comes up obviously a lot in different sports. And often it comes down to really simply just communication style and allowing people's needs to be met. And I think a lot of people have heard of the term assertiveness, although it's not always clear what that means. So maybe we can dive into that a bit. So I would very often teach people about assertiveness, and that's all about speaking up for themselves, recognizing what they need, and setting boundaries. But really, at the core of that is things like respecting our rights and other people's rights and being open and communicative. So there's a model that works really well with that, I think, in sports and in any area really, which is called nonviolent communication. Um, and that can really help simplify these kind of situations where you've got teams and a lot of competing goals and communication maybe is failing slightly. Um, so this model comes down to observations, so just literally seeing what's happening and recognizing what's happening, observing your feelings in the situation, which can be red flags for you or green flags as to whether um, you're feeling good and things are going okay, recognizing your needs, and then making requests. So using that assertive communication to make requests. So yeah, I think in a team like that, it would really be about tuning into the self, recognizing if your needs are being met or not, and that might be needs for clarity on a situation or needs for time out or so many different needs we can have. And then taking that step to bravely request, which might not be what people are used to doing, or it might be about reining things in and requesting more calmly than someone does at that time.
Yeah, it's quite interesting when you say there about observing and taking a time out. Often with sport, the emotions essentially are heightened because of performances, and people are put in situations where there's harsh words and they may fail and they feel embarrassed, really strong emotions. So yeah, that there's most definitely something in that, being able to take a step back and most likely I would say understand your reactions when you are and when you are faced with difficulties in that way. But also, I suppose, also understanding how some of your teammates or team members actually respond to pressure.
Mm. Yeah, it's the whole big picture of how everyone's communicating and navigating that. Yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned there about assertiveness and assertiveness training. In amongst that, without going into too much depth, because we'll do that on some future videos. If we think about assertiveness, the opposite side of the spectrum is passive. You've got passive aggressive, and
Mm.
you've got aggressive behavior as well. Obviously, you touched on non-violent there. I was going to say male dominated sports, which motor racing is particularly. Sometimes egos can take over, and the aggressive part can come out maybe more so. Not in every sport and not in every team, but it can do. So again, I'm guessing as a certainly as a sports psychologist myself, and yourself, if there was some aggressive behavior that takes place, trying to help the athlete understand, how they feel, how they react in those type of situations, and then what it is that they can do to help themselves diffuse it potentially, or again step away from it, so that they can have a rational conversation, would be something we'd likely look at.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think it's without going again in too much depth right now, but yeah, being assertive, I think, definitely allows you to create that space for yourself and set, say, for example, boundaries that just give you that space, not to feed into any conflict, but to recenter and be able to listen to what you need, and that in itself can then calm things down in such heightened situations.
Yeah, so I think maybe, next time when we record our video, what we will be looking at will be particularly helpful for the passive athlete. As we've alluded to, there's an awful lot here. This is just a very short introduction to it. But yeah, please do look out for some helpful advice for the passive athlete who finds it very, very difficult in these types of situations. So yeah, thank you for your time today, Alex. And we'll see you soon.